Okay, I'm back in the main town, slept good. Sunday morning, got my tea, rambling a little bit. Couple of things, two things mainly. Mainly just two things. I'm going to be talking about, on this rambling, really, brain versus the universe. Brain versus the universe, and how the two are becoming even more linked, it seems like. And also about this book. Yeah, that book right there. Power versus Force. Another coincidences kind of thing, more. First, I saw a little video on YouTube by this guy named Eckhart Tolle, Tolle. I'll put a link below. He's talking about self, I versus the I of consciousness, the I of the self, the ego, the body, versus the I of your consciousness. In one of my past videos, I said on in Hyoga Empath, talking about I use I a lot, but it's not because I'm a narcissist. I don't know any other way to put it. And it's this I of consciousness. Even in my last one, I talked about, one of my other ones, I talked about going into haircut. It's like, I don't even tell them what to do. I just walk and say, do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Which, for this body, it doesn't matter. When I'm thinking of myself as I, it's this consciousness, this awareness. That's how I see myself. It's just this awareness, not this body. I know it sounds really weird, but he talked about that. I'm like, well, fantastic. Just fantastic. Tea. Ooh, early. Also, in one of my past videos, God, I don't even know what video it was. I'll try to pull it up here. But there's this thing I was talking about, the duality of a holographic universe. I linked to an actual scientific paper talking about this thing, the duality of a holographic universe. I think it's Strange Happening number 64, what it is. And I do link to a scientific paper. I may also link to this little guy on YouTube called Anton Petrov. And he links to the actual scientific papers. Well, he just put out a video the other day while I was down at the river. I didn't watch it until yesterday. I just got back here. I'm like, wow. Because I start talking about and rambling with my tea. I think that may also be a rambling with my tea. But talking about how the structure of the brain looks like the structure of the universe. How our brain has network nodes and the fibers and clusters of bundles and all this, and information flows between it. Well, apparently a paper just came out showing the universe is almost just like our brain. Even if you do a size comparison and expand it from one to the other, or shrink the universe down to the brain size, it looks just like that. And acting just like that. So there's the actual scientific paper talking about this. So look back at my Strange Happening 64. I'll put a link below. And I'm rambling a lot about some of the scientific stuff. And then here it is now published. How funny is that? I mentioned another one too. It's like a lot of things that I'm talking about here, I seem to talk about it first and then it gets confirmed later. I'm seeing it later happen in some kind of confirmation. And it's so funny. But it's happened again. With the universe versus the brain. And they have a nice side-by-side photo in Anton's little YouTube video. Showing exactly that. And he goes into detail and it just got published. Wow. Just wow. Now, back to the holographic duality of the universe. Getting to that point, I joined a little Reddit group on Starseeds, and I haven't really done much in that. And I mentioned another one, how I don't relate to the reincarnation from other planets to here. I don't relate to that, but I relate to this, a lot of the material. And what it's relating to is higher level of consciousnesses. One of the YouTube guys, he must be an older guy. It's really well written, how he was writing and what he was saying. So it must be an older, more informed, intelligent person. But he recommended a book for me, this Power versus Force. The reason he recommended the book is, he said, because what I talk about, I linked to one of my little videos, I think the Starseed video, he laughed and thought it was great and enjoyable. And I'm just talking about myself, really. But I talked about how being part of the oneness of all, and it was going beyond love into joy. Love wasn't the final one. Joy was after love. And he said, that's in this book. He said, what I was talking about was in this book. And the deal is, it talks about levels of consciousness, and he used a particular technique, some kinesiology, to test this theory over, I guess, millions of people across the world, different mood states, economic statures, all this kind of thing, to determine a unified field of consciousness. And that's what he was going for. And he got into the holographic duality of the universe. And here I'm like, well, that's funny. It's kind of a coincidence there. He calls it synchronicities. I just call it coincidences. Look back at my strange happening number 5. It's all about this kind of stuff, synchronicities. I call it coincidences. They call it synchronicities. And you say, and a certain level of consciousness, this starts happening to you. And I'm like, that's like my teenage years. At another point, he says, to reach some of these levels of consciousness, you almost have to be born into that mode, be born like that. And I talked about how I was born like this, kind of strange and weird. But really, to whereas you don't have to. But pick up the book if you're interested. But it gets really deep in some things. I understood everything in this book, every single thing. I understood it. The funniest thing is, for this whole book, the methodology he used for testing the oneness of consciousness, raising the arm, pushing down to get a yes or no answer over everything, the method he used for all of his questioning, I've used before. What another synchronicity. In my past job, my main job at Bell Helicopter in the safety department, we hired an outside group of contractors, a group called Move Smart. I'll show a picture right here. Called Move Smart. Now, with Move Smart, they were there trying to, they taught some employees, a group of employees, how to move better, make better judgments, better decisions in everyday life, to be safer in their job, that sort of thing. They taught us to be teachers. We hired them eventually so that we could teach the same thing. Me too. Taught the same thing. I taught, and that his test for this is the very first thing that we go through with employees, how to make better decisions. And his test is the actual physical thing, the first physical thing we showed our employees is this guy's test in this book. How funny is that? That is so weird. Anyway, I'm not saying I'm a higher level state of consciousness person or anything, but because some of these people that they talk about, these level of consciousness, are real famous and all this kind of stuff. I am definitely not that. I have definitely not gotten rid of all emotions. I enjoy some of my emotions. I enjoy being human. I mentioned another one. I came here to learn how to forgive. That wasn't all. Even as a young kid, what I wanted to do in this life was experience what it's like to be other people. I wanted to see what people were like at this stage in Earth's history. I wanted to see what it's like. So, even as a kid, my goal was to experience this. So I did. And other people just talk about it. They talk about this or talk about that, and they try to imagine it. I don't try to imagine it. I want to be it. So I did. So in my world, I became a scientist type, toxicology background, a scientist, worked for the EPA, investigating uncontrolled hazardous waste sites, helping the planet kind of thing, nature. Then safety, and worked with people directly, thousands and thousands and thousands of people at Bell Helicopter corporate world, then Textron corporate world, even more thousands across the globe in the safety department. And then dropped that completely and switched more straight to the artist line, to the art side, and became president of art gallery, president of pottery studios, all that kind of stuff, and did the whole art side. So I learned about that. After that, I became a salesman for a television station, Fox and NBC News. Became a salesperson. So I did the salesperson thing. And then after that, right before that, I became a laborer. See what that was like. Working the night shift, stocking, actual stocking. So I'm in my 40s by this point, stocking as a stocker at Michael's, Hobby Lobby kind of thing. At Michael's, they do hobby arts and crafts kind of thing. So I became a stocker, getting work at 1:30 to 2 a.m., stocking late at night. moving merchandise and creating and removing shelves, all that kind of stuff. So I did that also. I wanted to see what it's like to be all these walks of life. It sounds weird, but I didn't just want to imagine it. I wanted to be it, to feel it, and to do it. And that's what I did. I know all this sounds kind of crazy and weird, but it's all in here in this book. And that is so funny. The whole Move Smart technique that I learned is how he did his test in this book. I understand the levels of consciousness he's talking about, and it starts getting into the really higher levels of consciousness. Like at level, it goes like 10, 20, 40, 50. At level 200, you break away from the negative and get into the positive at level 200. At level 700 to 1,000, you're totally enlightened. You are out there. You're like, oh, like Mother Teresa kind of thing, Gandhi, that kind of thing, way out there, you know? And it's kind of a logarithmic scale, so every little degree up is massive. I think that's the way he puts it. It's just funny. It's just funny. It's just like, because a lot of the way I live is the synchronicity and everything. It's like around 600, and then that's ridiculously high for somebody like me, because I still experience emotions, so I am not there all the time. Maybe some of the time I am. Some of the time maybe higher, a lot of time lower. So I'm here and there. I don't know. I don't get it. I just be me. I'm just me. And I'm good with that. The nicest thing, well, let me back up. I wasn't able to open this book until Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving night, I started reading this, and I am more than halfway through now. I mean, I'm just absorbing this book. And I couldn't open it. The deal was, I tried to open it and read. I was still reading some of the Wanderer's Handbook, and I got to a point in the Wanderer's Handbook, that ebook, that I was just flipping through it. It's like, no, I'm done. I'm kind of done with this. I want to get to this. And I tried opening this while I was reading it. I couldn't do it. I tried opening the book. It's like, it doesn't feel right. No, just not ready. I'm not ready to read this yet. I'm not ready. So I finally skimmed through and picked up a few little things from a Wanderer's Handbook, and it was good. And finally, Thanksgiving night, I was able to pick this up. And maybe one of the reasons is, strange happening again, that dark piece that was embedded in me. On the way down to the river, I started singing, it started resonating, and I started feeling this other dark entity out there. And it felt like a brother. I know it sounds weird, but it felt like that dark. And then my mind started opening up a little more. It's like, these are all brothers. It felt like brothers and sisters, family. It felt like family. I can try to read things and understand and conceptualize and understand things in my mind, but until I incorporate it into my being, it's not really real yet until it's incorporated. So I'm trying to read about, the oneness of all, the dark entities will eventually go back to source, all this kind of thing, knowing that it's different than incorporating it into being. So now this has become incorporated into my being, this dark part, and it feels like family, like they're family, but these dark things, it's almost like brothers teaching me lessons. I know it in my mind, I've read it, that that's what it's for, lessons, learning, overcoming, all that kind of thing, learning, growing, and said that before, but until it's incorporated, it's different. Now it's incorporated. Once that all got incorporated, it's like, I understand. It is all learning, the positive and the negative. It's all learning. It's all helping me grow. Until I could really understand that, I couldn't open this book. Once I understood that, I was able to open this book, and then there it is. That night, I cried with happiness. And what it felt like somebody wrapped a blanket around me and gave me a hug. I don't feel alone anymore at all. At all. That separation from source to here is gone. I don't feel separated or alone anymore. So thanks.